Mid-range smartphones in 2020 can already offer some flagship-grade features, and here's the Redmi Note 9 Pro coming to prove that point with fantastic quad-camera setup, the huge 5020 mAh battery, and a lot more on the very attractive price of $270. Let's inspect. Welcome everyone, Tech for All channel. My name is Michael and I'm so happy to see you here. The Redmi series, which are among the most popular series which are produced by Xiaomi, and when you combine them on one side with the title Note, and on the other side when we add the Pro, they're usually entitled to great success, which we hope that the Redmi Note 9 Pro is going to replicate. This phone actually delivers everything important someone would need from a 2020 smartphone. It looks great, performs very well, and its camera produces some stellar photos and videos. And while I have to say a lot about the hardware and the software, let me comment on the price first. It's somewhere between $250 and $300 depending on the region. The phone is meant to attract all the fans of the ultra successful Redmi 7 Pro series, and built on top of the 8th generation, you're gonna see that the strong sides are so many that the device has the potential to turn into bestseller for 2020 from the Redmi line. The competition in this price point is fierce, and now I think we can clearly see the big gap which happens to be between the mid-rangers, those more popular phones, and the flagships, at least in terms of price that we pay for the phone. However, in terms of features, you won't feel such a big difference. We're gonna start with the hardware, and the only kind of unboxing I can show you about this body is the way it arrived inside the mystery box. Hi everyone, my name is Michael and that's another mystery box. Thing is, you've already seen the title, and let's get started. Some papers. Ooh, I was about to throw this away. I got a card, by the way. Let's see what's in the card. Hi Tech for All, we hope you enjoy putting our Redmi Note 9 Pro, so that's the Redmi Note 9 Pro, to the ultimate test by using it as your main smartphone for a while, and tell us all about your experience. The retail box of course contains everything usual, like besides the phone you have a case protector, you've got a SIM card eject tool, there's a quick charger and a Type-C cable and some leaflets, everything usual. Now, what we can notice right away is the kind of build quality, because that's a significant change. Now the back is entirely made out of glass. That's Gorilla Glass 5, meaning that it won't scratch easily. It won't crack easily, but I would highly recommend you to use a soft case or any kind of protection, because if you drop it on the ground, the chances of getting a cracked back glass are pretty big. The display's technology is LCD, 6.67 inches. Battery inside is huge, just about 5000 mAh, rocking a day of super heavy usage, 2 days with moderate, maybe for some people up to 3 days if you disable some of the unneeded services. It definitely delivers in terms of endurance, which is quite typical about the Note series by Redmi. The international version supports 30 watt charging, which will make you have it charged for about an hour. The chip inside is Snapdragon by Qualcomm, namely the 720G, which is the lower end of the higher mid-range section of Snapdragon processors. That sounds overcomplicated, but that's Qualcomm's portfolio at the moment. To put it in simple words, the processor inside this smartphone is really capable. It's faster than the best Snapdragon processors from 2 years ago. It's almost up to par with last year's flagships. Like if we compare to the Poco F1, there's going to be not much of a difference in terms of speed. In my opinion, it delivers pretty good results because you can play with it pretty much any kind of popular Android game at maximum settings, and you're not going to see any notable frames dropped. Besides that, the price remains rather good. It's 1/3, sometimes 1/4 of what you're going to pay for a true flagship smartphone. And another big obvious difference to those flagships is the lack of 5G over here, which probably helps a lot to keep this good price balance, and on top of that contributes to the good battery life. From the rest of the hardware specs, there's the IR blaster. You can program the phone to be used instead of all your remotes at home. Very surprisingly, there's a headphone jack, which perhaps is the reason the phone to not be waterproof. It has, though, the P2i coating, so it should be at least splash-proof. Also, interesting decision about the fingerprint sensor. The display is LCD, meaning there's no way to use in-display scanner, and the cameras are positioned in the center of the back, so the only meaningful placement is the power button, and that's why it's bigger than usual, and that's not that bad. I'm used to the double tap to wake feature, but didn't have any problem to get used to this fingerprint sensor. The last few times I was reviewing a smartphone, there were a few comments about simply the phone call quality and how the speaker performs and how the reception goes. And over here we have a dual SIM tray. By the way, a very good dual SIM tray because you have 2 dedicated SIM slots, plus micro SD card support, which nowadays you can rarely see in these smartphones. The reception was brilliant. I didn't see any signal drops. And on top of that, I can only say superlatives about the speaker. In terms of connectivity, Bluetooth 5, the latest generation of Wi-Fi technologies, and NFC support. Now, I really want to say a few words about the camera because the setup is really brilliant. Don't get me wrong, it's not the flagship grade camera, but let's say it delivers maybe 3/4 of what this year's flagships are, so it's pretty decent. The main sensor is 64 megapixel sensor. And now I need to make a note here. The Redmi Note 9 Pro in India is having a 48 megapixel sensor and slightly different RAM configuration. Over here, the international version, that's rocking 6 gigs of RAM for both variations of the storage, and it's rocking the 64 megapixel GW1 ISOCELL sensor by Samsung. I'm usually a bit worried when we talk about too many megapixels because increased pixel density often results in more noise and worse low light quality. That's why the sensor is capturing photos at 64 megapixels only when there's sufficient light, and when there's less light, it uses the so-called stacking, where a few smaller pixels are combined, and essentially that turns it into a 60 megapixel shooter, which distributes the light good enough for low light photos. And that's why the daytime photos are stellar and the low light photos are kind of good. They're not flagship grade, but they're really decent. Also, it is one of the first sensors of its kind to provide the option of enhanced mega zoom performance with the highest resolution of 64 megapixel, and that's why Xiaomi are advertising this buttery smooth zoom in or out option from the camera app. In fact, in the last few months, we have seen significant upgrades with the MIUI camera app, and while I find a lot of things to criticize on the rest of the software options for the Redmi phones, the camera app is at the moment, in my opinion, the easiest to use from its competitors and offering the most customizations and features. The front selfie camera, for instance, lets you take these slow motion selfies inspired by iPhones, apparently. For creators, that's an interesting solution, the kaleidoscope mode, and that's besides all the filters and framings and the beauty modes which are available from the app. The Pro mode about photos is great, but what really matters, in my opinion, is the Pro video mode, because it lets you go a little bit in cinematography, and if you don't know about some of the terms, check in the MIUI camera app, there are explanations about all these professional sounding terms. But it's really great to know that we can control the shutter speed, besides the frame rates, the shutter speed, the ISO, you can lock the autofocus and the exposure mode, and so much more than that, things which are usually accessible only for DSLRs and mirrorless cameras. And now they're packed into the body of the Redmi Note 9 Pro. It's not the only Xiaomi phone that can do that. We have the feature available on some other models like the Mi 10 Pro. In short, this smartphone has most of the features that we can expect from a flagship device, and I'll tell you what is not that good. The low light photos are not up to par with the best cameras out there. There is no 60 frames per second in 4K video, and the stabilization for videos only works in full HD. Let me say some things about the software experience. It's Android 10 at launch, and we of course have the Xiaomi's custom skin called MIUI. You either like it or not. I know it has a lot of fans and there are some very good things to say about this Redmi. Unlike some Mi phones, it continues to use the MIUI dialer app and the messaging app, which means that there is the call recording feature available, and I think this still is the best dialer for dual SIM devices. There are a few extra apps on top of what a clean Android would offer, alongside with the MIUI's theme engine, a lot of customizations, and the interface, which is somewhat in the middle between Android and iOS. The version I tested is based on Android 10, and Xiaomi are known for providing regular security and feature updates for their phones, so if you plan to buy one or happen to already own a Redmi Note 9 Pro, it is a feature-proof product both in hardware and software terms. In my opinion, this right now is the best value choice from the mid-rangers that are being sold globally, with fantastic top 2020 qualities, among which this stellar 64-megapixel camera, the awesome Snapdragon 720G, and we already mentioned the 5020 mAh battery and all the other awesome features that we talked about in the previous minutes. And if you ask me, is it worth buying the Redmi Note 9 Pro? Yes, I would say definitely yes, especially if we put it side by side with phones like the Mi 10 Pro, which is fantastic but costs like almost 4 times more. And now it's you telling, how do you feel about this new body? Do you like it? Do you think it's going to be a successful Redmi phone? And what's the kind of money you're ready to invest in your next device? Are you in for a 5G flagship, or this decent 4G mid-ranger is suitable for you? Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, then give it a like, subscribe to the channel to get more cool tech videos. I'm Michael and can't wait to see you in the next one. Bye!